Live with podcast episode number 4, right?
Quattro.
Number 4. Today we are talking about firing, different types of firings, all things kiln related. So gas firing, wood firing, electric firing, what we like, what we've done, what you should be thinking about. You know, I felt like yesterday I was talking about the first 5-6 years. I did not realize even close to how big of a world there is in pottery and firing in terms of what makes sense for you. Do you like gas fire, electric fire? What temperature is right for you and why? You know, atmospheric firing versus non-atmospheric, reduction versus oxidation, like all that stuff. We're just going to have a very wide-ranging conversation about all that. My mug that I'm drinking out of today is a Hammerly second that Kai got when he was in Colorado. And we're drinking the light roast from Mocha, which Mocha has a new website going live on December 10th, which will have all our coffees available. So you'll be able to get our morning mischief coffee that we're drinking today very soon. Kai, what are you drinking out of today?
Stephen Hill's mug, which we will probably get into, but I believe he is a slow-cooled electric.
He is the slow-cool electric man.
Yes.
That's what he is. He does amazing stuff. I mean, he probably revolutionized the making an electric firing look really atmospheric and different.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and so should we start with just electric kilns, maybe?
Sure, yeah. Let's start with, let's maybe an overview of I guess I did an overview kind of already, but I mean, there's basically 3 types of ways that you can fire, and then there's 1,000 variations within each of those, right?
Yeah. So we could go over fuel first, and then we could go atmosphere.
Yes, there you go. So fuel. So the 3 different types of fuels are gas, wood, and electricity.
Yep. Yep. So
The most common.
Most common is 100% electric.
Right.
That's what 90% of stuff you see is probably electric.
Probably, yeah.
That might be a bit high, but
I mean, everything mass-produced is probably electric-fired. Every school in America has electric. I mean, every pottery studio in America has an electric kiln. Typically, it's going to be very rare for a potter.
I mean, the reason probably for that is the barrier to entry is super low for that. You only
inexpensive.
Yeah.
Don't need a vented or anything. Don't need a lot of knowledge. You can just get going pretty easily.
Yep.
So yeah, the electric, which is what I did for years and years and years, basically only electric. And even guys like, Jericho Pottery, who he's done everything from the wood fires to gas fires, he chooses to electric because it is simplest, easiest.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So
yeah, but then you get into, electric is the first fuel type, then you get into gas, which we just got the gas kiln, a year and a half ago?
Yep.
Something. So if you want to talk a little bit about the gas firing versus the electric, maybe?
Yeah. So gas is fueled with propane. Well, and basically, electric, going back to the electric firings, it's fired with electric coils, right? And then basically it's just heating it up, and then the box is the kiln, and that keeps the heat inside it well enough that the coils can just heat it up, right? So it's going to gas, you're firing propane, so you're actually you light a burner, and then the burner is kicking gas in there. Mm-hmm. And so when you don't have electric coils, that's what allows you to do things like have atmospheric firings, right? The coils kind of prevent you from getting some of those same flame things. You actually have a real flame happening in the gas. Mm-hmm. So that provides different looks. It provides different ways you can add in certain elements to the firing, which would be atmospheric firings, which we'll talk about that too.
Right.
And then the third one after that would be wood. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely the least common one because it is super labor intensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are you have to get a community of people to do that because you have to be with it 24/7, whereas the electric kiln, you can just set it and then it's done the next day.
Well, and even the gas is pretty, we had the gas firing all day yesterday, but you get about as much work done when you're firing a gas as you would when you're firing an
Oh
electric,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Gas is just checking the damper,
Right.
gas, airflow if you have that.
Well, and there are even more automatic,
Oh yeah, like the
gas,
blows.
but those are very expensive.
But yeah, wood is just super labor intensive. You need a lot of people to do it, and normally, because it is like that, I think the kilns are just super large because of that. Like
Right, like if you're gonna fire it, you might as well make it real big.
right, so you're talking 500 to thousands and thousands of pots in the wood kilns.
Which you don't have to do that.
No,
But
no.
you just, if you're gonna build it, you might as well make it pretty big.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So now I guess we can get into like so we got the three basic
Fueling.
groups.
Yep, fuel types.
Yeah. So then there's like little areas within each three of those that are pretty unique, where people can kind of differentiate themselves from other people.
Right.
So yeah, should we just go right back to the beginning? Go back to electric.
Yeah.
Electric atmospheres and styles you can do.
Right. So yeah, with electric kilns, starting with when elementary schools start at low fire, so you have basically different variations in each one. You have different temperatures and you have different atmospheres, right? So electric, you're always going to have an oxidation atmosphere. I mean, I should refrain from using words like always, because I'm sure there's people out there that will do a reduction firing with electric kilns.
Yep.
It's just not very common. So, right, in elementary schools, they often will have low fire clay. So the clay vitrifies at a lower temperature, like 04. And when you say vitrifies, that means that the clay particles are really close together at a lower temperature so that it's not going to be porous and leak. It'll actually hold liquid. And then you have to have low fire glazes that mature at a lower temperature. So like at cone 04, whereas if you put that glaze on a pot and then fired it up to like cone 6 or 10,
Wouldn't be
it's going to run everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yes, right. Yes,
Right.
to a higher temperature. Yeah, and that kind of gets into like different clay bodies of like high fire versus low fire clay, but right now we're just kind of sticking to the firings, I think.
So then electric firing, is super common, especially like to cone 6 would be considered kind of like mid to high fire. You can go to cone 10, but for whatever reason, most people in electric firings go to cone 6 or 7. I mean, we do 7, I don't even know why. Just because one day I was like, well, let's try 7, and then it was kind of semi-different. But then electric kilns, you can do interesting things like crystalline glazes, and that's a pretty cool thing about electric. I mean, if you're looking for a way to step up your pottery game into another level, crystalline glazes or slow cooling glazes like Stephen Hill. So you program the kiln, which is a big benefit to the electric kilns, is because you can set those programs.
But that is with the nice touchscreen controllers where you can set certain programs, whereas like the kiln sitters,
Not the kiln sitters, yeah.
you would have to manually, but if you have the newer interfaces on your electric kilns, then it's very, very easy to do.
Yeah. Well, you don't need the touchscreen ones. You can program it with the other
I guess
ones.
just anything besides a kiln sitter.
Which I don't even know if they make. I don't think they make kiln sitters anymore.
Probably not. They're probably too old.
Yeah, but you can definitely find kiln sitters
Right.
used like a dime a dozen.
Right.
So kiln sitter means, it's hard to make podcasts that are appealing to a wide range of people, because there's probably people that listen to this and they like don't know what we mean by kiln sitter, and so then we have to explain that. But then there's people listening that are like, obviously you know what a kiln sitter is.
Right.
So we want to appeal to the beginner, but also appeal to the. So that's a hard balance to strike, but we're gonna try and do it.
Yeah.
So the kiln sitter is like you put a kiln in there that will bend.
Cone.
Yes. Did I say kiln?
Yeah.
Cone in there that will bend at a certain temperature, and when it bends, it shuts off. So opposed to an automatic one that's using a pyrometer to measure the temperature and then shuts, turns the elements on and off at certain times.
Right.
Anyway, so electric. Crystalline is like a slow cool where you're growing crystals, right? So you have a specific glaze that's formulated, and then at a certain temperature, it's going to slow cool it so that the crystals grow. And that's just a really cool thing. And the slow cooling thing too is as it cools, if you stop it from cooling at certain temperatures, like around 1500, 1600, then you get these like microcrystals growing.
Yeah, and that, like, people just play around, like Stephen Hill, like we said multiple times, just play around with different firing schedules in your electric kiln, which the new electric kilns make it super easy to do that, so that's super nice.
The last one with electric, before we move on to gas, all different types of gas firing, is the luster or like overglaze firings. So there's a common thing with logos or lusters that you can fire to even a lower temperature than a bisque. So you go to like cone 019 and you get like a gold luster or pearl or decals and stuff like that. So that's like an additional firing.
Yeah, so that's normally after the glaze firing, where you go back in and do the luster or the decals.
Right.
Yeah. Which is a very low temperature, thinking about it now.
Yeah, 019 is like, yeah. It's amazing that that holds up, that those hold up to a dishwasher or whatever. But I guess it's still way hotter than a dishwasher would be.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of about it for electric. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of variety within those, but those are the main points,
Right.
I would think. Now we can just maybe hit on some gas-fueled kilns, style kilns.
So yeah, gas-fueled kilns. Common to go to cone 10, go hotter. For whatever reason, like gas is like typically a hotter temp. We have that scale underneath there. Is there a scale right there? But I mean, do people do cone 6 gas? I think Hammerly's done it before.
I mean, probably. There's probably people out there that do it. It's just not as common knowledge. I would assume.
But anyway, so yeah, in cone 10, it's common to have a reduction atmosphere, which we can talk about that. You know, the two big different types of atmospheres are reduction or oxidation. Reduction is controlling the amount of oxygen that's available for the propane. So there's fuel going in, right? And obviously it wants oxygen, so it's searching for oxygen. And when you starve the kiln, starve the atmosphere, then it kind of starts pulling different colors out of the clay, starts pulling stuff out of the glazes that you wouldn't normally get when it's just there's oxygen readily available. And it also helps to control the temperature rise, right? You're using reduction to starve it so that it like doesn't gain temperature as quickly. Whereas most of the time in gas, if you just like let it go with oxygen, then it would be able to gain temp really quickly.
Yep.
Is that like a good 20-second review of oxidation versus?
Yeah, and then there's a lot of, with all the firings, there's a lot of specially formulated glazes to kind of complement each different firing. So like with the gas firing, we use a lot of glazes that are based off of carbon trapping, because that is a thing with the reduction kiln, is the carbon trapping in the glazes.
Right.
So I don't know how into the weeds we want to go on glazes, but
well, so the carbon trapping thing, so when you put a kiln into reduction, does that automatically just start creating carbon that's available in the atmosphere of the kiln? Like that's just what happens. Like that's just a chemical reaction that when you put it in reduction, there's just carbon there now.
Well, yeah, like right when we put our kiln into reduction, there will immediately, like the carbon soot on there will immediately appear.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, like, is that just coming from like there's carbon in the atmosphere and then something about the reduction atmosphere makes it available in physical form? Is something like, because you know, you don't get carbon trapping when you fire an electric kiln.
Right.
So is it something about the reduction atmosphere? I mean, I know it happens and I know it's there. I just don't know exactly this is in the weeds, but
I don't know what the science is behind it. I'm not a science guy, but that's just kind of how it goes, I guess.
But anyway, so reduction versus oxidation. There's reduction cooling. So as you cool the kiln, you can keep it reduced, which I guess we kind of do that, don't we? We kind of reduction cool it. We don't really do that on purpose. But we close off the damper, so there's...
Yeah.
But you have to have some propane available.
I think you're still fueling it while dropping temperature.
Yeah, okay.
That's the goal of the reduction cooling, which we normally just get up to temperature and then we'll cut off the fuel.
Right.
So.
But then gas has tons and tons of different variations, right? There is raku, which is typically fired with gas, maybe always. And so that's same thing, but you're going to a lower temperature. And then typically you're taking it out when it's at a high temperature and creating a new atmosphere inside of a garbage can or whatever, or some people dig them in the ground. And then that just does its own crazy stuff. That's an old Japanese style. And that's what's cool about all these things is they have such history and origins in different places, which I don't know everything about or really anything about, but it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
The other one was Avara. That's not
Yeah,
what I've done before.
Avara is just kind of fits in the realm of raku, where you're firing it with gas most of the time, but then you'll take it out instead of putting it in like a garbage can to create a reduction atmosphere. You put it in like, I believe most of the time it's like a yeast activated mixture with like milk and, which is another, some sort of ancient, I believe, method, which that yeast will then burn onto the pot when it's really hot and then create kind of some different aesthetics to it. So just like another raku.
Yeah.
Different style raku, it seems like to me.
Well, and then, this will lead right into the wood, but the two different types of atmospheric firings where you're introducing something into the atmosphere of the kiln would be soda and salt. Salt's been around forever, and salt firing is very common back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago probably, and then soda is fairly new as an alternative to salt, so you get a similar kind of look, but I actually prefer the look of the soda, I think. So salt seems to be very kind of just dull and not as much variation, and then the soda. So then you're adding in that at higher temperatures, right? So you fire the kiln, gets up to like 2,000 degrees or 2,100 degrees, and then you're somehow adding in baking soda or a mixture of soda and other chemicals, and then it vaporizes. The flame will vaporize it, and then the flame kind of carries it through the pots. Hopefully there's some sort of chimney flue that's like drawing the flame, draws the salt or soda mixture with it, coats all the pots, and then you're relying on the kiln atmosphere to create the effects that you get on the pots.
Right.
And that doubles both as typical gas firing and wood firing.
Yeah, and with both of those too, you can also pick your reduction or oxidation. Like you can do a reduction soda, salt, but you can also do an oxidation soda and salt.
Right.
Like there's just so many different variations of firings that it's just really based on your preference, I feel like. Or what's available to you.
Yeah. And for someone like me, that I don't even really have a preference, I just like making new fun pots all the time. It's like, Matthew Kelly used to say that about a potter in Seagrove, you're going to run out of days before you run out of pots to make, ways to glaze your pots, basically. Like,
for sure.
Run out of days before you run out of ideas. I think that was the, basically you'll die before you get to try everything you want in pottery.
Yeah.
To boil it down to its simplest form.
So does that just lead us right into wood?
I think that leads us right into wood, the third and least common way to fire pots. So you want to talk about the wood fires that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I've only done two wood fires, both at the same spot in Kimball. Yeah, they're really fun. They're like very primitive feeling. Like, so the basics of it is instead of using electric or gas to fuel your kiln, you're just putting in wood. So you're just burning wood in your kiln to get up to usually cone 10, I would say, but some people go to like 14, or I'm sure you could go to 6 as well, whatever. But yeah, it's just super labor intensive, kind of like what we talked about. Just so you're putting in wood every 2, 3, 4 minutes. So
for like 24 hours or 48 hours or 5 days in a row, depending on how big it is.
Some are a couple week long firing or something.
Right. So yeah, they're cool to be a part of. The results, it's really hard to justify like the amount of work that you have to put in it. And then I feel like wood pots are appealing to other potters because they can appreciate it. But like when you ask some random person on the street that doesn't care about pottery, like, hey, this is a wood fire pot, or hey, this is an electric fire pot, like most people are not going to choose the wood one because it's like this the most amazing thing. It's like you have to really get people to understand the process for them to appreciate like the wood fire. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think to an extent, but there's also people out there that'll probably be like, I don't care how it's fired. I just like that it's maybe more of a neutral, earthy tone.
Sure. But like with electric glazes these days, like you can get an earthy tone, neutral earthy tone.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this sandstone glaze from Mako is pretty darn earthy and neutral.
Yeah, it's just different. I don't know. It's not the same. Like, oh, and then that just goes into like the ash. So the ash from the wood. Like the way I see it, the wood kilns were the first kilns, presumably.
Yes.
And so that's where they're like, hey, this ash creates a natural glaze, which kind of evolved into probably gas firing, people working with the salt and soda, different atmospheres, whatever. So everything's kind of come from the wood. It's just adapting from it to make it whatever people prefer, easier. Or
yeah, for sure.
Kind of how I look at it, I guess.
So yeah, wood is really an interesting thing to be a part of, to see how pottery was made thousands of years ago, before electricity, before propane. I mean, or depending on what you think, how long the Earth's been around, I mean, it could be millions of years of wood fire pottery, right?
Yeah.
Like however long humans have been around, they've been making pots basically. First time somebody like had a really hot fire and then they realized that this clay went in brittle and then it came out hard. They were like, all right, now we can make something to eat off of or drink out of or
carry water.
Yeah.
So wood firing is kind of cool just in that sense. You just feel very...
Yeah, if you've never, I mean, you probably, most people listening to that haven't been to a wood fire. I have a great video about the wood fire in North Carolina I did with Matthew Kelly. So if you're interested, go check that out. It's probably the best video I've ever made. Just search wood fire pottery. I think it's the first one that comes up. But I was going to say, like, if you've never, basically a wood kiln is made of like a firebox in the front. So you just basically make a fire just like you make a bonfire. And then there's a chamber, so it just like kind of flows right into this area where a bunch of pots are. So you load that like you would load other kilns. And then there's a chimney somewhere, like a chimney flue, that will draw the fire through the pots, right? That's kind of how you would explain to someone that doesn't understand. So you make a big bonfire, then all of a sudden there's a chimney somewhere in a distant area of the kiln so that it draws the flame through it, and ash and all the stuff. And then it goes out the chimney.
Yeah, and then with wood too, you can also like double dip with everything. You can go wood soda, wood salt, wood reduction. I don't know if wood oxidation is even possible, but
wood.
Or you can reduction cool your wood kiln. Like you can just play with so many different aspects of the firings.
Right. Well, and the other things with wood, besides like a big kiln, like I was just describing, where you have a firebox and a chamber and a chimney or whatever, then there's also just little ones like pit firing and barrel firing and sagger firing. Those are all, I think sagger is with wood, right?
I think it probably can be both.
Okay.
I would assume.
But like a pit fire is basically you make some pots, you might wrap them in tin foil or interesting different stuff, put them in a pit, and then make a big fire around it. Like I did that in college. Did you ever do one of those?
Yeah, I did one at my house. My parents' house.
Was it awesome?
Yeah, it was fun to like try, but it's like they're not gonna be functional. They're more of like a decoration unless you can tell how hot it is getting in the center of your fire pit. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. Might as well try it.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see like how pottery has evolved over time and like how easy and simple it is now if you want it to be, which is why you can buy such cheap pots in places, is because you can make it pretty inexpensively.
Yeah.
But without electricity and gas, then it can get tough.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about what
we like?
Yeah, what we like.
Yeah, you go first. What's your
Well-
favorite and why to start?
Well, I think my favorite and why has it just changes. It changes so frequently, and I'm probably so different than most people. I every year have a new favorite, different way that I like finishing pottery. Where I mean, you've been so much more consistent in you like atmospheric firings, but I just like to experiment. So I'll preface it with that. I like to just keep experimenting, seeing what we can do that's new. I've always kind of set up my businesses to kind of be I can make whatever I want and it'll probably sell, which is a nice, I don't know, I'm atypical. Most potters, they find their thing, they do it really well, and maybe that would even work better for me if I did that, but that's just not really my personality. So right now, I would say my favorite is soda firing. So we do have a bunch of soda fire pots up on the Etsy shop right now. And it's probably because it's the newest one. We built this soda kiln this year with Kevin Kowalski coming out. So this is just a straight yellow flashing slip, and then this is the soda that hit it right here. And so there's no glaze or anything on the outside of the pot. It's just the same thing with this one. You can see kind of bubbles up and has this texture on it. It's pretty cool. And then you can use glazes too. So this one is a Panama red, so it turns red in reduction and turquoise in oxidation. So anyway, the variation in soda firing is super fun and cool. So I would say that's my current favorite. Although it hasn't it has sold pretty well actually. I always couple everything with I have to like it, and it also has to sell well for me to continue to do it.
So and then you've also had experience with basically every kind of firing, right? So you've done raccoon, wood, electric,
right,
gas. So
wood is really fun, but it's more about the fun experience of it than it is about the actual pots. All of those pots up there, there's 6 wood fire pots, and I'm kind of it's okay. Is someone gonna look? I mean, if I walk into a shop and I see a bunch of these colorful reds and that metallic coppery, which is an electric fire glaze, I don't know. There's aspects of everything that I like, and to me, the wood is not. The juice is not worth the squeeze on the wood right now.
Yeah, it's just all preference.
Right.
Yeah.
And raku is fun and it's cool, but yeah, I really like functional pottery, and so if you want your pots to be functional, then raku is really not the firing type for you. What about you? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like you. I like experimenting with a lot of things as well, but I just kind of have a disdain for electric firing stuff, I guess.
A disdain? So you're talking about your disdain for electric fired pots.
Yeah, I just
hate it so much.
Yeah, I hate it. People who do it, they're not even real potters.
You're drinking out of an electric fired mug right now.
No,
Hypocrite.
It's just personal preference. Just I like atmospheric firings because you can get the different. It's so unique compared to electric. Most of the time, what you have done, you're gonna get. Whereas there's gonna be a lot more different outcomes in the atmospheric firings.
Yeah.
So that's why I like gas for most of my stuff, but the soda has become my favorite.
Yeah.
Quickly. I do like wood, but I'm the same boat as you. It's is it worth all the time when you can try and do it other ways? So that's why I like trying to replicate wood surfaces in the gas kilns kind of thing. So it makes it more efficient.
For sure.
So playing with wood ashes in the gas kiln or the soda kiln, that sweet wood ash one I had in the soda kiln, kind of mimics the soda wood firing, but it's actually only gas.
Well, and this glaze is a brand new one that we just started trying, this Alberta Blue Ash. So you get that ash look that you would get in a wood kiln, Kind of. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, right now it's kind of soda for me as well, I think, is where I'm, like if I were to buy my own kiln right now, I'd probably buy like a gas-fired soda kiln.
So where would you buy a gas-fired soda kiln?
I don't know. I'd probably build it.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it's not typically something you can just like walk down to your ceramic store and be like, hey, I want a gas soda kiln.
Yeah, unless I want to pay someone like an extensive amount of money to make it for me.
Right.
I would probably just try and figure it out on my own, get a bunch of bricks, and whether it's like doing a repurposed electric kiln like that one out there, or just trying to do it full brick, whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Not
So
at
yeah.
that point in my life yet.
Well, and that's where, you have to build the kiln based on what you want to be doing in it. Because like, for example, that gas kiln that we have, the Cone 10 one, that has all soft brick on the inside. Mm-hmm. So soft brick is really good for, it's called insulating brick, so it's super good at insulation, but it's not very hardy. So the soda would eat that soft brick up, like it wouldn't last very long. Mm-hmm. So basically you'd build a $10,000 kiln, or you'd buy a $10,000 kiln and you'd put soda in it and it wouldn't hold up. Like it would be...
You'd have to replace the bricks like...
every 10 firings.
Right.
It's just economically not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
So then you need to build it with hard brick on the inside so that the inside of the kiln is hard brick, but then you also need to insulate it somehow because hard brick doesn't insulate as well.
Yep.
So then you need to have it an outside layer of insulating brick. Mm-hmm. Or what Kevin Kowalski did with his kiln is he put a refractory mortar that protects the insulating soft brick.
Yep.
So all that stuff is kiln building stuff that you just need to know if you're going to get into this.
Yeah.
That's why it's so easy to just buy an electric kiln, because you just don't need to know all
for
that
sure.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But
And you can get really cool results with electric. Don't let Ty
I
get you down on electric firing, because there's a lot of people that do super cool stuff with electric firing.
For sure. Just my opinion again. But I would encourage everyone to like at least try like soda, wood.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise you don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
That's true. It's true. You can easily get down the electric path of, because there are, you can spend your whole life in the electric firing lane and never run out of things to do, right? Like, we have a whole test-style wall with 680 different combinations of electric firing, and that's just like the tiniest tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
Because you can make all your own glazes, you can go to Cone 10, you can do luster firings, you can do crystalline, slow. So, yes, I personally, I love the fact that we've gone into gas and soda, and like that's always been my vision for this pottery studio here, was to spend the next 30 years doing anything and everything. Like, might as well try it all. Mm-hmm. Even if that doesn't ever mean we like settle on one look. Like if the look of my pots can transform every year, that's fine with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's the spice of life.
The spice of life. But I understand that that's not feasible for everybody, right?
Yeah, 100%. But that's why like a great, like wood firings are somewhat accessible. Like, since it is a community thing, it's signing up, and granted you have to pay and it's time, but it's still most of the time pretty easy to join, or like trying a gas firing at like a local school or art center or something.
Well, yeah, I just had someone reach out to me last night, or they texted me, I have no idea who it is, and they were like, do you ever let people fire in your kilns? And basically I told them I have, and I just charge like $1 per piece. Like, that's kind of, if some random person reaches out to me, I'll just be like, sure. Mm-hmm. So then you can get into it really easily if you make your own pots. And
well, yeah, for sure. I think just trying it out. Like, you don't know until you've tried it, I feel like.
It's kind of like it's what we say about everything. You just got to try, Yeah. Start a business, just try it,
Just got to do it.
Just got to do it.
Just got to do it.
But hopefully we gave you a little more information about firings.
Yeah, and for sure, put like any questions or things we missed down below. We'll maybe address them at a later point.
Yeah, would definitely. Yeah, and what did we miss? What kind of firings did we miss? The one thing I did talk about was I've seen people microwaving, like doing microwave firings. I don't know what the legitimacy of that is, or like how hot they can get it, but that would be the one alternative fuel that we didn't talk about.
Well, it'd still be electric, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it would be electric. But not coil, you know, not
Right.
like electric heating coils.
Right. Yeah. What are we gonna call it?
All right, let's call it. Yep. That's it. Thanks for watching, listening. See you guys in the next one.
See ya.